Monday night. Ready to go? All right, let's go. It's Monday night. Turn it up here. What up? Let's go, everybody. Hit that like button. We're getting ready. That's Rooks. That's Rooks there. Yo, shouts out to T Dog out there, my best friend. I hope he's doing well out there. Yo, what's up, y'all? What's up? It's Monday night. Let's get it popping here. Let's get after it. Let's get after it, as they say. Yo, so tonight I got a good one for you. This is pure. We're doing a pure film stream tonight. This is all movie, and I think this movie deserves it. We've done a bunch of movie streams lately, and the movie streams we've done. CooperCon, of course, was Jason Horsley's um, book analysis of Stanley Kubrick, right? And then we did the conversation, which was pretty much pure film stream, Francis Ford Coppola. But we did Heart of Darkness recently, but this one's going to be pretty much pure film, and I think it deserves it. It's called The Place Beyond the Pines, and I think I'm gonna take these up. I think people have seen this movie, but I'm doing it. This one is not a you know movie that I watched so you don't have to stream. This is a movie that I watched so that you will watch the movie, or because you've watched the movie and you recognize its greatness. And so let's do a pure film analysis tonight. This one should be, I would say, fun. It's going to be fun. It'll be as fun as we always do it. But this one's pretty pretty deep. This one's gonna maybe hit home. Okay, so this is The Place Beyond the Pines. It came out about 12 years ago or so. It's by this guy Derek Cianfrance, director, who did Blue Valentine, and it stars Ryan Gosling, Eva Mendes. It's got Ray Liotta. Who else? It's got Ben Mendelsohn. And Bradley Cooper. It's a Dane DeHaan is in the movie, a young Dane DeHaan, and it's very well done. It's really, I think it's an incredible movie. Now, I'm not just doing a movie review, so spoilers. There's going to be plenty of spoilers, you guys. There's going to be some spoiler alerts. There's going to be a lot of spoilers because we can't do a true movie analysis without it, as usual. So let me give you a rundown of what the movie's about. First of all, this is one of the movies that's always cited as the "This Is Literally Me" movies, right? Yo, shouts out to K Dot out there who drops $5. Super chat. Thanks for the content, BLA. Well, thank you, K Dot, for your very special dono. I really appreciate that. And also, just at the start, let me give a shout out to Jason out there and to who dropped a $10 PayPal, and to our friend, the real John Connor, who always is a big support. He's our brother out there. So thank you so much. If you want to super chat, you can do that through the links in the video description. That our homeboys Jethro, Jason are dropping in the chat right there. Feel free if you're watching this to join the chat, and especially to drop a comment afterwards. I got a lot of comments just from a post on this movie, because I think a lot of people, especially the fellas, really love this movie. Again, this is like Ryan Gosling in top form, and it really is. And so I'm going to be talking about the way that the movie runs, the narrative structure, the aesthetic, the format, the palette, the way that this movie is a great example. The Place Beyond the Pines is a great example of showing instead of telling. It's really pure cinema in the way that there's not a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of moodiness. And I could see probably how people might be put off by that in terms of the sultry, sullen moodiness of the movie. But I would say watch the whole thing. Don't get put off by it because it deserves to have those scenes. Although the script is really well written. It's very well written, highly underrated film. And it kind of slipped under the radar. And I think this was a kind of successor to Drive, which came out a few years earlier. And Drive, of course, I love Drive. I mean, it's a great film. And Nicholas Winding Refn, it's a great film and with a great soundtrack. This one also has a great, totally different soundtrack, but the score is by Mike Patton, of course, from Faith No More. So I've been listening to Faith No More all afternoon and just keep my mouth shut. Right. Midlife crisis. And so I've been listening to Faith No More all afternoon. But Mike Patton does a fantastic, moody, atmospheric score, and it is not synthwavy at all. It's really a great film. So first of all, the movie's called, let me give you a rundown of what happens in the movie, just as a refresher here, and then we'll dive into it. It's called The Place Beyond the Pines, and thank you to the real John Connor, who let me know that it's called The Place Beyond the Pines because, of course, it's an Algonquin name for the area around Schenectady, New York. Have you guys seen Synecdoche, New York, with Philip Seymour Hoffman? I'm gonna get you. What's your name? Yeah, Synecdoche, New York, good movie. Schenectady, New York, is where this takes place, and so it's the name for that. And so what we have here is the best intro to a movie, the best opening sequence in a film that I can remember in a long time. It's really fantastic. This, Children of Men, Heat, all have great opening sequences, but this one is really fantastic because what we get is we get the sounds of a carnival before the screen even lights up, and we hear a noise. We hear a and it's rhythmical, and it's, of course, we see. Right, we know it's Ryan Gosling right away in his trailer at the carnival, and he's playing with his butterfly knife, and we hear all right, you ready? We're ready for you, Luke. And he knocks on the trailer door. We know he's getting pumped up, he's getting psyched, getting turned up for his whatever he's about to do. Stabs his knife into the door, and walks outside, no shirt on, puts on his Metallica shirt. Cut off Metallica shirt, sleeveless, what is it, a Ride the Lightning shirt, puts on and that's interesting, it's Ride the Lightning because it's a Metallica shirt in general because, of course, one of the important phrases in the movie comes from Ben Mendelsohn later, who tells him, and this is sort of the crux of the movie, that if you ride like lightning, you'll crash like thunder, and it's really great and genuine and sincere and works in the movie. It would be dangerous to have a line like that in a film that didn't earn it. But he truly earns that kind of line because it could come off as it wouldn't work in another film, but it truly works in this movie in a number of ways. And so then what happens is he puts on his like red riding. He's got this red leather jacket, and he makes his way. We're following him from behind, making his way through a crowd. This is very reminiscent of like Goodfellas walking into the Copacabana, but it's really cool because this guy is electric and he's like a rock star, and we don't know what he's doing yet. If you're watching the film, we don't know how he's earned this, but he's got a fan base and a following, and it's lots of teenagers, and there's a woman taking a picture of him, and he makes his way through the crowd, and it also gives us the sense that the carnival aspect, which is also interesting because we did the Houdini stream by the author of Nightmare Alley, and we've talked about Nightmare Alley and how Nightmare Alley with Bradley Cooper, this movie has Bradley Cooper, how Nightmare Alley and the carnival is a kind of, in that movie is a satanic carnival house of horrors, right? With the jerk, he makes this deal, and in this, it goes in a different direction, but it does give us the indication that this guy's life is a carnival. The outer aspects of the scenery and all of the lights and the pinwheels are going to be a kind of fantastical thing with a guy making his way through it. And that's going to be an outer symbol of his inner state, of course. Right, of course. And just mentioning Bradley Cooper real quick. This movie is so good that Bradley Cooper is almost forgotten in the movie. And he plays the linchpin of the movie because he's in the second sequence of the film. It's the movie's a triptych. It's a kind of American trilogy. It's certainly an American saga, and it's truly an American saga. This movie is one of the most American movies that I've seen in the last 20 years. I would say it's one of the best movies of the last 20 years. This and There Will Be Blood and Children of Men and a few others, really top the categories. They don't make movies like this anymore, really. And it's also interesting because Ryan Gosling plays a kind of a scuffed Ken. And of course, I mean, he's got bleached blonde hair, and then later he goes on to play Ken. It's also, one last thing is, this movie is really like a Tumblr movie. It's really like a Tumblr era movie. It was huge. It was huge when I was active on Tumblr in like 2012, posting synthwave, synth, Charlie XCX, and Place Beyond the Pines gifs. So it's kind of like that. Now that's supposed to make it sound good. I don't know if it does, but it is great. It's a great film. It's really, really fucking powerful. So excuse my language. So what happens is Ryan Gosling makes his way through the crowd. We find out that he's a motorcycle rider in the county fair carnival in the Ball of Death. And this guy's great. He's a true daredevil motorcycle rider. And we see the sequence. It fades. Let me give you just a general overview. So he does that. And then after the carnival, he meets a woman. He looks up, sees a woman. The woman is Eva Mendes. He gives her a ride back to her house. Then he finds out that he has a son, he had met her a year before. He didn't know this. He's back in town, and that he has a son. And now he has to make a decision whether he wants to keep going and go, with the motorcycle and the carnival life, and leave his family, his new son behind, or whether he's going to stay and be a part of his life. And he makes the decision to stay. This surprises Eva Mendes, who has a man, because Ryan Gosling has been gone. She lives with her mother, her son, and Mahershala Ali, another Oscar winner, who's again also kind of forgotten in this movie, but is really, really solid. So he sticks around, and he finds work. He's riding through the forest one day, and he finds Ben Mendelsohn, who's riding a quad. But he's riding a quad bike, a four-wheeler, through the woods, and he sees him, and he's like, "You're really fucking good at motorcycles. You want some work?" And he gives him a place to live, this little trailer, and at his place where he's got a mechanic shop. Gives him some work fixing up stuff, but you can tell there's not much work to be had. And eventually they get around to talking, and he says, I could fix up that old truck. Ben Mendelsohn says, well, there's other work if you want it. And he says, what? And he says, well, you could rob a bank. He says, get the fuck out of here. And he says, no, I'm serious. I've done it 4 times already, and I quit. The last time was, years ago, but it's very easy. He tells him, so it becomes a bank robbing movie. And of course he says you got to use your skill set to do this. So eventually Ryan Gosling becomes a bank robber on a motorcycle, and it's very well done. It's incredibly well done because it's also really human, because we've spent all this time getting to know this character and understand his motivations for doing so. And so he takes the money and immediately gives it to Eva Mendes so that she can raise their son, and he wants to be a part of his son's life. This comes to a head when he clashes with Mahershala Ali, who wants him out of the house. He says, you can't be around here anymore, can't just show up. And he assaults him. Then he goes to jail. He gets out, and then he says, I want to do 2 banks in one day. Ben Mendelsohn says, I'm not going to do it. If you ride like lightning, you're going to crash like thunder. And he saws Ryan Gosling's bike in half and ruins it. So he has to get a new bike. He puts a gun in his mouth, says, I'm going to do it. You're going to be there. He goes and he robs the banks. But this time, this is the end of the line, and the bike doesn't start. There's all these bad omens. And he gets chased by some cops, and he rides through a cemetery. So he takes his death ride through the cemetery, foreshadowing, spoiler again, his death, until finally we see Bradley Cooper, who's a patrolman, in a car, picks it up. Gosling ends up at a house, goes inside the first house he comes to. He invades the home. There's a mother and her son there. Interesting, because how the movie loops around. It's a big web. He sort of takes them hostage. Then he says, "Get out of here." He's upstairs. He makes his last phone call to his woman, and then Bradley Cooper comes in. And as soon as he enters the room, he shoots him. And Ryan Gosling shoots back just by being shot out a window. He falls out a window. He's defenestrated, and he's dead. And you didn't expect this in the movie. We didn't know what was going to happen, but he's only in the first 50 minutes of the movie. But this is going to then, he shot Bradley Cooper in the leg. Bradley Cooper goes to the hospital. And now he's a hero. He's a hero cop. And he's uncomfortable with this because one of the first things he asks is what happened to the guy. They say, don't worry about it. And then he finds out that he had, through the news, that he had an infant son. So now Bradley Cooper is alive. He's got a son who is the same age as Ryan Gosling's son. And Bradley Cooper and his wife, who's played by Rose Byrne. And it's interesting how the movie mirrors itself. He's trying to get back to work, but he can't because he says he has a hard time looking at his son now because of his guilt over killing this guy. He was doing his duty, but he feels guilty for it because he took a life. So then there's an element that's thrown in where the cops, played by Ray Liotta, and a kind of Copland, right? I gave you a chance to be a real cop, and you blew it. You blew it. What, they ain't got no napkins in this place? What? They ain't got no napkins? Go to lunch. You guys seen that movie? Ray Liotta should have won the Oscar for that movie, by the way. He's excellent. He's a conflicted cop in that one. It's a decent flick. But in this one, Ray Liotta, who, by the way, was in another Ben Mendelsohn movie called Killing Them Softly, with Brad Pitt. That's one of the Brad Pitt's Plan B movies. That's a solid movie. I like that movie a lot, too. These were movies made, kind of midway Obama era, and are interesting as a snapshot of America, but also this one is particularly relevant to now because of the kind of dissipation of families and how poor everyone is. And I know that's sort of always the case, continues to be the case, but unfortunately, but it really hits home in a number of ways. Anyway, so Ray Liotta takes him out and says, we're gonna take your husband out. We got a little celebration, but instead he takes him to Eva Mendes' house, and they say they got to search it. And now we're in dirty cop land, and they search the house for the money that Ryan Gosling stole. Eva Mendes says that she doesn't have it, but of course they find it under the crib. But that forces Bradley Cooper to pick up the infant son of Ryan Gosling, whom he already felt guilty about, and now he's literally holding him in his hands. And he's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? He obviously feels uncomfortable with this. And then later he tries to give the money back to... First he tries to take this to his boss and snitch out the other guys. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear anything about corruption. And then his dad is a judge, not a federal judge. He's a state judge. And he's played by that guy who's in... Clear and Present Danger, and who's great in Ozark. I forget the actor's name, but he passed away not too long ago, but he's great. And so he wants Bradley Cooper to be a politician because he went to law school, he's educated, and Bradley Cooper says he wants to be a cop because he's interested in justice, like on the street. But then his dad makes this case that that leg is a gold mine. You're broken, your shot leg is a gold mine for a future run for attorney general or whatever. But this is not what Bradley Cooper's interested in. You can tell that he's a conflicted guy with a strong sense of virtue, and he then tries to take the money and give it to Eva Mendes, who tells him that you ruined my family, you ruined my son and my son's life. And it's weird, the confrontation with her in the car echoes Ryan Gosling's confrontation with her by the car, and it's kind of we get one male supplanted with another, and you can tell that it's very hard on her life because it's just a series of chaotic events. But anyway, so eventually what he does is he takes it to one of the higher ups, played by what's his fucking face? Played by he's the guy who plays James Tiberius Kirk's boss in the Star Trek movie with the fake flag, right? The Khan movie. My name is Khan. It's where Benjamin Cumberbatch. That's his real name. Benjamin Cumberbatch enunciates his words. It makes your mouth sore to try and imitate him doing it. My name is Khan, and I can run faster and jump higher. Like, dude. Okay. Look how much he enunciates in that movie. I mean, he plays the same kind of character. Don't fuck with me, right? Tell me what happened. And he had interviewed Bradley Cooper earlier because Bradley Cooper shot. He didn't want any inconsistencies, and he was asking, did you announce yourself? When you came in the room, did you see the gun in his hand? Was it the phone? And he got shot, so he has a way out of this. He opened the door, the guy had a gun in his hand, he shot him, and then he shot him. So there's no real way around this, and I'll get to that part. But anyway, he takes it to him, the corruption case. They do a sting operation. The guys get put away, and then Bradley Cooper becomes he makes sure to get a deal for immunity, and that he's going to be picked for the district, the district attorney. Then he makes his way up. Time passes, and we now see that his dad has died, and he is the district. I guess he's the district attorney for the, Manhattan or something. He's on his way up in politics. He's a big deal, and he's got a son, and his son is, he gets in trouble. He's kind of a wannabe gangster, and he does this clearly out of a sense of pain because his dad pays no attention to him. And he meets Dane DeHaan at school. Dane DeHaan is the son of Luke, who's played by Ryan Gosling. He doesn't know this at the time. But what he does is he enlists him to steal some oxy from a pharmacy, and then they get arrested. They're in trouble, and Bradley Cooper confronts him, tells him, don't mess with that kid. I'm not going to say anything more. Just don't mess with him, because he's got this protection over Dane DeHaan, who then gets out of trouble. Later, though, they hook up again. They're supposed to, he says, come to my party, get a bottle of oxy. He steals again, goes to the house. He then sees a picture of the kid's dad, and it's Bradley Cooper. He goes, buys a gun, comes back. We don't know what he's done, but we think that he shot him. He kidnaps Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper says, what did you do with my son? They're in the woods now, in the pines, where Bradley Cooper had gotten away from Ray Liotta, who was also, in a way, kidnapping him to probably smoke him, because he figured he was going to be a rat. And he's about to shoot Bradley Cooper. And Bradley Cooper says something that that makes him not shoot him. He takes his wallet, goes through Bradley Cooper's wallet, and in the wallet he finds a picture of when Gosling and Eva Mendes and Dane DeHaan was a baby, and so he keeps it. He mails it to his mother. He runs away from home, buys a motorcycle, and rides off to the west into the distance in a truly American movie. And so that's the movie. Now let's get into what all this means. Well, first of all, it's done so well and so deliberately that we could just take a few scenes and analyze them Um, and this would help if you've seen the movie, but if you haven't, it's okay because I'm going to try and sort of explicate this for you as best I can. So so first of all, this scene right here, this scene right here is interesting because if you look at the little screenshot I have right here, this is Ryan Gosling on his motorcycle riding through town, and just the one single shot is interesting because he's at a crossroads. He's physically at a crossroads here, literally, but figuratively, he's at a crossroads in his life, and his whole life has been a series of crossroads. There's such great exposition in the movie that works well. Usually, this doesn't work well, but the rising action in the movie really takes us to a true climax, and there's a series of them, which makes it a triptych. I mean, Bradley Cooper's character again is the crux of the whole movie. Just like we're at the cross streets here with Ryan Gosling, and we get this series of strong male figures in a movie, and it's really interesting because usually with great crime films there is always a heart to them. There's a reason these people do things, but oftentimes it gets overtaken by the action, and the action in the movie is fantastic. But what really makes the movie great is the emotional impact of what these characters are going through as real human beings. Right? Like the song goes in Drive. And so here we get Ryan Gosling on this motorcycle with a green light going through the cross streets, which tells us, or shows us rather, more importantly, it shows us that he's going to go ahead with his plans because you see the bank in the distance there looming. We don't see his face, but we know where he's looking. We know that he's looking at the bank and he's going to go through with this thing. And notice that we get, it's sunset, it's summertime. And so we're in the kind of summer of his life. The whole movie pretty much is set throughout continuous warm or summertime sequences. And until the end when it looks to be like it's turning fall into wintertime, but he's riding into the west, into the sunset, as the end of an American saga. But here we see the darkness looming, so we know that it's going to be hot. There's going to be some heat, but it's also going to be dark, right? There's going to be some darkness, but he's trying to get out of the important thing in the movie, the thing that really hits me, and I think that this is important for us to watch, especially the fellas. And this is because, we have this loner figure. He's clearly a loner. He's like the most loner Sigma of all time. But instantly, when he's at this carnival and he's already done his riding, he's finished with his sequence. What happens right here is this is a great scene. This scene really fucking hit me. I do know why, but I don't know why. And what happens here is, he's signing autographs. He's put his shirt back on, he's finished his motorcycle and he's signing autographs, and we look and we see Eva Mendes, who has shown up, and she's very young and very beautiful, and she looks and sees him, and he does this double take. And the way the movies are successful because of what is in the eyes. It's truly what is in the eyes. I can't really overemphasize the fact that it is in the eyes. This I would highly recommend this movie. It's so well done. And this is something that great actors really have that can't be faked. And so he does this double take, and he looks up and he sees her, and we watching this, we go, he is instantly in love. He's instantly taken. And I like this just as much as anybody else does. I like a love story because we put ourselves in his place. We all imagine ourselves at one point, at least in our lives, as being, we want to be the dangerous loner, or sometimes we find ourselves being that way, and then it ends up being our whole life. And I think the reason that we sort of this hits us is because this guy has the outer symbols of everything scarred up and wrong with the interstate of his life. It's all there on his skin. It's all there on his face. He's got this dagger with a teardrop. Thomas Henderson, hey, shouts out Thomas Henderson, says rune tattoos on the neck. Yeah, they do resemble runes. They're not quite runes. He just writes in a runic style with slashes of his felt tip pen. And he's got a big ship on, sailed ship on his back on the waves, conveying the sense that, he's on the waves of life and that he is a true adventure seeker. I mean, and that's, I think, through circumstances, but what happens here is that one thing about the movie that I think is really important is that, everybody has a talent. God gives us all a talent. And I was thinking about how, they try to enumerate this with a formula of, this 10,000 hour scene, 10,000 hours thing. And, that's not really the case. I mean, the real case is that when a person is really good at something, really the best, when someone's really good at something, I've talked before about how invigorating it is to watch someone who's good at what they do, no matter what it is. I talked about how I went to a football game and I saw this student who I watched him in 15 seconds. I knew that he was going to get a scholarship. He was going to go to college. He was going to be the best, and he's probably going to go pro. And that's exactly what's happening. You just know it. There's something electric. There's just, you watch someone. I have a friend who, I was in bands and stuff when I was in middle school. I played guitar and sang. And I had this friend who had never played guitar, and I remember we were in English class one time, and somebody had brought their guitar, and they handed it to him, and he'd never played guitar before, and he started playing like God just gave him the hands and the ear to play guitar right there, and he's the best guitar player I've ever heard in my life. And God gives you this talent, but when he does that, he also gives you this choice that you make, right, where you're going to use the thing or not. And if you use it, it becomes an extension of your body and your mind. It becomes muscle memory, and you're never without it. And that's what Ryan Gosling has in this movie as this motorcycle rider. He is one with this motorcycle. There's even a scene where when they're taking a picture of them outside of this ice cream place, it's Gosling and Eva Mendes and their infant son, and the lady taking the little Polaroid or whatever, she says, do you want the motorcycle in it? He says, yeah, get the motorcycle in it. It's part of the family. And then so when Ben Mendelsohn saws the motorcycle in half, and he does this with good intentions because he doesn't want this guy to get ruined, even though he got him into the life. The two kind of converge. They literally converge in the woods. You notice that. They're going on different paths, right? It's the Frostian sense of two roads diverged in a yellow wood, except here they converge and they come together and they sort of clash. So when he saws the motorcycle in half, it's like his body he's been cut. And that's what leads to his downfall and eventually his ruin. And if, in the movie, literally his ruin. But what's interesting is that Gosling has been, living with this thing, but now he chooses to use the motorcycle so that he can support his son. Now here, the moral thing here is pretty complex because we can see that he's got a good heart. And he wants to do whatever it takes to support his son. In fact, there's a scene where he's talking to Eva Mendes outside, and he says, he confronts her about the child. He says, you got anything to tell me? And she says, no. And you can tell that she's in pain. Like our friend Claire, beautiful Claire from Canada. Like our friend Claire said to me the other night, she said that Eva Mendes' performance is, I think she wrote it on Instagram, her performance is understated, and full of a kind of intense passion that's very well done because it's not in what she says, it's in the things she doesn't say. You can tell when she sees him again that she wants to tell him something. Why would she go to the carnival to find him just to get a ride home? She says, he drops her off. He says, you want to like get something to eat? You want to talk?" And she says she has a man. So you're thinking, and he doesn't say this, but you're thinking, why would he take her home? What is this? So she has something to say, and the way she does her hair, the way she looks, she wants to say something, but she doesn't. So then later, Gosling goes back to the house, and her mother is there and holding a baby when she answers the door. And God, this scene is fucking powerful, dude. This is really, really powerful. He says, "Who's this little guy?" And the grandmother says, "He's your son." And I gotta tell you, this really hit me very, very hard. And I'm trying not to be too emo about this, but I think this ties into why I think it's important for the fellas to see this movie if you haven't, and if you tell me in the comments later if you relate to this, that you know he didn't know he had a son, but now he knows, and he instantly changes. And I think you show that they show that in the way that the camera looks down and he rubs his hands together and he's trying to get the dirt off of his hands before he holds his son. And this is obviously trying to clean his soul of any kind of the dirt and the grime of his life before he holds this pure child. And the way that he looks at the child, it's really, really, it impacted me pretty hard. And I think this is important because regardless of what happens in this moment, I see this as to me, it verges on allegory, because again, appearances obviously can be deceiving, and oftentimes it's the roughest or the most troubled people or the people that are in the most shit, who have the best hearts and who want to do something good. They want the opportunity to do something good, and they just have to make it. Now, with that being said, the conflict comes from the fact that he does not make the right choices. It's clear. He doesn't make the right choice in terms of what he does to support his kid because and this is obvious. Everyone knows this watching it, but just it deserves to be said that he goes and he robs a bank and he's got a gun and he points it at, this poor woman, and he grabs this kid and says, "This guy's going to be my dog." And although we know that he's not going to kill any of them, they don't know that. And so he puts them through this, and that's not fair, obviously. Because as much as he's fucked up, now he's fucking up these other people. And then he totally crosses the line, obviously. When he comes to the house, he goes inside, and the family is essentially hostage. He does let him go, so we're glad for that. So we still go for him as the hero. He's a kind of anti-hero. But you can't do that, dude. You can't do that. And so what the fuck? So okay, I don't know what the fuck that is. So anyway, he goes into the house and he takes them hostage and lets them go. But still, he's made the wrong choices here, and that's part of the broken aspect of this film. So, fuck off. What the fuck? Get the fuck out of here. So anyway, he takes when he's got his son, and it's just very powerful, and he makes this choice. He makes this choice to use his skill set, which is unfortunate because what else could he do with this, right? So, Eva Mendes is great because of her like understated emotion in the scene, and she says to him in that scene outside of her house, she says, he says, why didn't you tell me anything? And she says, you just took off. You took off and you were gone. And you never came back and you never called. And so, what happened, but she had the child. good. And what's he going to do about it now? And he tries to stay, but unfortunately, life has made it so that in that time that he was gone, she's gotten a man, and what happens here is that Mahershala Ali owns the house, and he later will tell Dane DeHaan, that guy's not your father. I'm your father. I was there the day you were born, and I've been here your whole life. And he's right in a sense, but it doesn't ease the pain from his Luke's son not knowing about his dad. He has to know about his dad, and he wants to know, and nobody will tell him. And Mahershala Ali is very good because he says, that's not up for me to tell you. That's your mom's business, Shouts out to Roscoe P. Cotrain, who drops 40 Canadian. Says, ellipses, lacunae, pauses, omissions. Sounds like TB, what's TPB? Oh, The Place Beyond the Pines, or Joseph K. and Kafka's The Trial. Here's a bit more for an analysis of said author's work. Thanks, BLA at all. Yeps. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. I'll be getting to it very soon. Thank you, Roscoe. Really appreciate that. And so, he plays a part, and a really great scene in this, which is really, really, really impactful and really emotional, is where Gosling shows up to the house, and he tries to be a part of it. They say, we can't talk right now. We got to go. We're on the way somewhere. And where do they go? Oh, they go to the church. And Gosling kind of shows up afterwards, but we walk in, and we're in the middle of a beautiful, the church everything is white and glowing. And Gosling walks in the back of the church and sits down in the pew, and he sees his son being baptized. And it's not him up there. It's another father and his wife and his son. And he looks up, and that the look up is interesting because even the baby actor in the movie, does an obvious look up when he's holding him outside of the ice cream shop, and he looks up, looking up for grace, and then bows his head and cries, and single tears coming down his cheeks, and it's very, very powerful because he doesn't need to say anything here. We don't need dialogue. We know that this guy is in serious pain. He's in serious pain. I don't know who that guy was talking to earlier. I guess it was somebody in the chat, but anyway, he's in serious pain, and he wants grace. He wants forgiveness, and he I suppose is doing the best he can in the circumstances. Although he chooses the wrong action here, but really where the movie changes into something else, because that could have been the entire movie. But where the movie really changes is when we get the Bradley Cooper character. And I think this is interesting because, he's an understated character here. It's weird because he's very, very good in the movie in a very real sense, not a realism sense, but he's very good in how we understand that this guy has a completely different struggle, where he's kind of LARPing as a cop. He is a cop, but he's LARPing as a guy from the other end of the spectrum from Ryan Gosling. And so when he gets shot and is in the hospital and asks about what happened to him, we know that this guy is different, right? And of course the cops are telling him, don't worry about him. He was a scumbag. We got another guy off the streets and all that stuff. But that doesn't ease the fact that he took the guy's life and the way and the circumstances that it happened, especially when he finds out about his son, because he's a human being. And Brody says, drops $2 Canadian, says, I nearly got face tats after this movie. Nearly. Well, I'm glad you didn't, but if you had, that's all right. Who are we to judge? We're just some dudes on the internet. Right? So he asks about his son, and then when the cops come to pick him up, Ray Liotta's character is very good in this because, and this is not necessarily because of Ray Liotta, but it's because of the way that the movie is written. What happens is the cops are so bad in this movie. They are so evil, and they go into the house and Rose Byrne makes them dinner. They're all sitting there, and he says, "I got to take your husband out." And it becomes one of these situations of where he doesn't want to go out of the house. He wants to stay home with his family. He wants to make a decision with his wife first. They're going to make a decision as partners, right, in this thing, where he can tell that something is wrong. She can tell something's wrong, but the circumstances make it so that he has to go with them, and it's very difficult. And then when he goes out of the house, he makes this comment about his wife, and it's painful because you want to fucking, I guess we'll say you want to have some words with Ray Liotta's character about what he just said. It was totally bullshit, but he can't he doesn't because of the three other guys there, and he knows that this is something he doesn't know what it is yet. But he gets in the car, they go around driving, and this is an initiation. It's an initiation and a blackmail attempt, and they succeed. And they have something on Bradley Cooper because he's forced to take part in it. He goes in the house, and they go up to the house, and they say, we're here to search the house. And Eva Mendes says, you don't have a warrant for this. Now, Mahershala Ali's in the background, and he's like, look, you got to let him do it. There's nothing I can do about this. He also, I don't think, knows about the money. But she lies and says, don't go up there because her son's up there. And they go up anyway. They sit down at a table, and he's questioning her, and it's total bullshit. And she says, you need to go back and get a warrant. And he says, oh, well, I won't go get a warrant if you don't want me to go check on the papers for your mother there, right? Which is it's fucked up in the situation because they end up stealing the money, so they are worse than Gosling, right? Obviously, because Gosling did the thing and took the money, and these guys but he's the bad guy. He's the bad guy, right? In terms of society, he's the bad guy. He's the bank robber, but they are the cops, and it's the obvious old time, it's just city corruption and all that stuff. I know, but I'm just trying to analyze it in terms of how they get away with this and how they attempt to initiate Bradley Cooper into this thing that they have, because it turns out that these guys are now they give him the money. He takes like the big cut of the money. And now he's been paid off in blood money, right? So what's he going to do? Well, he tries to give it back. He tries to turn him in or whatever. And there's not really anything he can do. And you're worried that this is going to go bad for him and that he's going to get killed because of it. And that he's going to leave a wife and son at home. But he sees his way out of the situation when they go into the pines. Although eventually later on in the movie, he gets stuck in the same situation, but it's by a kid, and it's by the very kid that he's been trying to look out for in life and that he held when he was younger. So now he becomes this sort of surrogate father figure. And then that ties into the fact that his own son is suffering because he's dedicated his life to politics, and we find out that he's gotten divorced from his wife, and she says to him at the funeral later, at his dad's funeral, he wants to come live with you, and he says, that'd be a good idea at some point. I think that's a good idea. Of course, not now. Right. But because he's got this political race that he's got to run. So it's bullshit. So he ends up also, people are complex, and nobody's perfect, and, all that stuff. But it's a series of people making good and bad decisions and meaning well, but ending up doing the wrong thing here. And what's really important about the movie is the way that the movie, just like a book has a web of words, right? Where I was rereading Sonnet 18 today by Shakespeare. This doesn't seem like it would tie into this. But the way that I've talked about how the puns create a system of a web where if you're gonna allude to something or use a pun in a work of literature or a word that seems to be unrelated or incongruous, it has to have echoes in the rest of the poem. So if you create a different web, it had a different point, a hub. It has to have a web going with it to make sense. Otherwise, it's just an abstraction, and it's a weak part. But instead, this one, what it does is every shot in the movie gets repeated later on in the movie. And it's very subtle the way they do this. But one of the non subtle parts, of course, is where we see this overhead shot from behind of Gosling riding his motorcycle through the woods, and we see this as freedom. You know, he's free. He's a free spirit, but he's free. He's riding his motorcycle, and he's a very urban-looking character, but he's in nature. And then later on, Dane DeHaan's character is on a BMX bike riding down sort of the same road. We see Gosling's character pull up to the house and look at the family in the windows, and he doesn't say anything, but we can tell that he is we get the house structure looking in through the windows from the outside shows this figurative, highly symbolical thing of the house is the home for the family. They're in it, and they're engulfed in light, and he's out in the dark. He's in the outer darkness, and he's yearning. He's a yearner. He yearns to be part of the family. Just like in this, it's the opposite of this scene, because again, this scene right here, he's outside, but we see these bright lights behind him. But he's turned away from the bright lights to face the girl that he loves, and she's looking at him surrounded by light. Right? But yeah, I got Red Bull right here. But if you want me to get more Red Bull, if you want to support me, drop a super chat, PayPal, Cash, all that stuff right there. And you would help me to get more Red Bull. But he's engulfed by light, and she sees him as not a savior here. He's not going to save anybody, but she wants to find him. Yes, be an earner, not a yearner. Well, you can be both. You can be both. We all, the sensitive folks yearn for a better life, but you got to earn. And you got to earn it. And so I think that's a good point, because what he's trying to do here is earn his way back into the family, not just through cash, but by being there. He buys them a crib. He buys the baby a crib. And that becomes the reason for his violence against Mahershala Ali, because they say, get this shit out of here. He says, get this fucking shit out of here, man. You can't just come in here. Right? This is my house. But he wants to be there with his family, and to to support his kid. And again, he wants to construct something, and he tells him, look, there's a practical reason for this. You can't let your baby sleep in the bed. He's gonna fall off the bed and bust his fucking head. You got to give him a crib. Right. So he does that. But I just think that this movie is great because it's a really American movie. There are obviously a lot of families out there like this. There's a lot of people in this situation, and we wish that they weren't. But there's a lot of people in this situation, and the father has authority, but he doesn't in this situation because he's been gone. Right. So the problem is that it's more complex than that, because he was gone, and they thought he was never coming back. But he came back. And so the conflict is, what is everybody's role, and how do we get through this? Because who's in charge? How do we make this work? And her loyalty is also to him, to Ali, because he's been there the whole time, and he sticks around, which is interesting in the movie, how that works. But he sticks around. But, of course, that doesn't really hit with his son later on. There's the great scene. There's the really powerful scene. Probably the most powerful scene in the movie is the ice cream scene, when they go out as a family and they get this one photograph together. And he's standing there with his son in his hands and the motorcycle. And you look at Eva Mendes, and she's clearly holding back tears, and the woman's taking the picture and says, do you want me to get another picture? You want me to get another picture without the tears, without her crying? And he covers her eyes and pulls him into his chest, and but she's smiling at that point, like he's really protecting her. And you can tell that these are tears of joy, but also there's a real pain because their situation is untenable, right? Eventually, she tells him to get out when he sends Ali to the hospital, but but that doesn't stop him. He wants to keep supporting them. He accepts responsibility for what he did. He takes the baby, he walks downstairs, and he says, "Call an ambulance." And he's there, and he takes responsibility for it. Okay. Um, you know what? What I think I don't really care about Hollywood. Love stories or people and all that shit, and usually it's PR. But I do like the two things that I've read about from these particular actors about this movie because I actually believe it in this sense. So what he said was that this is just a brief paragraph. He said that when he was on the set of this movie, he was acting. He was pretending. He had to pretend to be in love with her and to have this child. And at some point during the making of the movie, he didn't want to pretend anymore. And I believe that. I believe that. And God willing, these two people will be the rare example of Hollywood. I mean, but look, we're all people. But hopefully they stay together and they have a child. They're married. That's great. That's great for them. Good. We should like that. We should like that, right? I mean, I know we're jaded and we're cynical, but just give us one example, where this stuff is real because it's so rare in the world, and so we should like that, I think. And so, that's what he said to her. That's what he said about her. And then I saw a thing from her, and she said, this really got me. She said that she was, she wanted to essentially not be married and be single, and she didn't want to have any kids. And then she met him on the set, and they were playing this role. And then she realized she didn't want to have kids. She didn't want to have anybody's kids. She wanted to have his kids. And so I think that's wonderful. That sounds real to me. That sounds great. I hope I'm not going too far into this. I this isn't usually what we talk about, but I just think I think that's powerful. So good for them. And I think this is great because acting is pretending. You're pretending. It's pretend world, as Laurence Olivier and Richard Burton and all these guys have said. But you're also a human being playing a role, and this is why people either get broken or make something of their life in terms of theater, in terms of drama, because you're doing the things. This is why I was saying during the David Lynch stream that Ray Wise's character, if you were in that movie and you found out what he had put you in the movie, that you would obviously, I'll just put it lightly, be extremely upset about what he had done with your character. But I think this is powerful. So I like that. I'm a cheerlead them in this sense. I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool that these two people met on the set of this film, and then they fell in love. I think that's great. So I'm going to cheerlead them for that. Because there's 2024 is supposed to be the year of love. There's not enough love. He's jacked right here, bro. Look, so those are his tats. And he did get jacked for this movie. I mean, he's pretty cool. He's pretty cool. He's counting his stacks there. He's counting stacks. And, here he is on his motorcycle riding through the night. He's a night rider, right? And he don't have no, Luminate Confirm eye on the front of there. He's got a pair of sunglasses. He's got his clout goggles tattooed on the front of his bike, which is pretty cool. And interestingly enough, it's right above the light on the motorcycle. And he, in that scene, puts his glasses on his son. And, later on, his kid will go and he'll search out who knew his dad. And he finds Ben Mendelsohn's character. And he gives him the sunglasses. And that's sort of this weird object, that allows him to have some sort of connection to his dad. They're just a pair of cheap, goofy glasses. As Ben Mendelsohn says, but he says there's a great scene where he says, put them on, put on the sunglasses. And the kid puts on the sunglasses and he says, yeah. Oh yeah. That's him. That's you. And what's weird about the movie also is that all the characters are conflicted. You know, they're all highly complex characters, but Ben Mendelsohn's character is, you're wondering when you first meet him, is this guy going to be some sort of creep? Why is he allowing Ryan Gosling to come and stay with him like this? But it turns out he is almost pure in his intentions. We later learned that, again, this was kind of a setup to get him involved in this robbery. But it wasn't, but it was. And they become sort of partners in this bank robbery. He's the getaway driver. So Gosling, what he does is he he wears a boiler suit. He's got his sunglasses on. And his sunglasses, by the way, are the thing that conceal his identity in the robbery. But they reveal his identity to his son later, which is ironic in the movie and a nice touch. And he goes in, he parks his motorcycle right up by the door, leaves it running, goes inside, has them separate the cash on the counter so he can see any die packs, gets on the motorcycle, rides very fast down the street. He's the best motorcycle rider. He's in the ball of death at the beginning, going upside down, and he is riding through the woods later on, the scene where he's riding through the cemetery. And it was clever how they did this because there are shots of him riding the motorcycle. I mean, he can ride a motorcycle, but obviously the stunt double. It's funny the way they did it at the beginning because we see him from the back and he rides to the right, and then we see a motorcycle ride in from the right. And so obviously the switcheroo occurs. But also, what's really interesting about the movie that it's sequential. It's the movie is linear. And with all the emphasis on nonlinear films because of fragmentation and the sort of fragmented postmodern landscape and all that stuff, that this is a great movie because it's shot in a linear fashion and it's totally in sequence, and so we get a true saga. We don't get flashbacks, we don't get flash forwards. It's left up to the audience to tie the narrative together, and that's why all the scenes tie in with one another. There's a scene where Bradley Cooper is talking to his dad in the pool at their house. So it's father and son. And then later, when the movie goes forward in time, we see Bradley Cooper talking to his election staff. And we see his son come out to the pool. And he's about to jump in the pool. But he looks at him. And we can see the spite in his eye. We can see the spite in Bradley Cooper's eyes looking at him. Because there's this residual pain from the fact that he's taken away a father from a son, and now he has to be a father for this son, and there's this unearned thing, and he takes it out on his son, which is very unfortunate in the movie. And then we see the son look at him, and the son is bad, in terms of his behavior, but you can see the pain in his eyes looking at his dad, like he wants attention, he wants a father to be there, he wants him to. And later on, Bradley Cooper, when he gets arrested, Cooper will grab him by the face and slams him up against this wall in the jail, in the interrogation room. He turns off the. It's funny because for the same boss is there from before when he exposed the corruption thing, but now he does this thing where he goes in and he says, can we get him off? Can we change the system to get him off? So he's also using the system here, which is something that he wanted to expose earlier, and he has the cameras and the audio turned off in the room, and he goes in and he grabs his son by the face and slams him against this wall and says, leave him alone, leave that kid the fuck alone. And he says, you can have anything you want, but again, in America especially, you can have anything you want, but you can't have the one thing that you want, right, which is love. And oftentimes, those two things are in conflict with one another. With families like this, or with any family. So, and what's really great is the last scene where Dane DeHaan goes out to this, like he goes out. He's out in nature now, of course. And he goes out into this into the hills, and he knocks on this door and. Again, there's a scene knocking on a door. Ryan Gosling did that earlier in the film, knocking on the door, and he sees his son. Now he goes out, and there's this man who comes out, and the guy says, yeah, I got the motorcycle that you were looking for, and he pulls out the motorcycle, and he says, you ever ridden one of these? You know how to ride one of these, son? And Dane DeHaan doesn't answer him, gets on the motorcycle, starts it right away, and rides off into the distance, into the fading sunlight. So it's almost like what I was saying about talent earlier, that this DNA generational thing, it's like that's shown in a figurative sense in the movie, where the kid knows how to ride this motorcycle by almost by instinct, and the sound of him riding off into the distance is pretty powerful, and that's the end of the movie, and then we get the title sequence of the movie, and so just all in all, I think this is a really powerful film, and I just kind of wanted to do a short one on this one. This is the shortest one in a while, but I think I really would recommend everyone go see this movie. It's really fantastic. It's cops and robbers. It's generational. It's it's linear. It's sequential. It's a saga. It's a triptych, and we get a series of repeated situations and father figures and son figures, and so it's left up to the audience to sort of make our way through this sequence and see what that means for us and for what we want to do with our lives. I don't think that movies and books, when they are didactic, when they try and teach us, especially when they try and teach us something moral, oftentimes fail because they are too teachy, and they end up telling us a story instead of showing us. And this movie is interesting because it's not that it's ambiguous. It's not that the story is ambivalent, or that that we find an ambiguity in the film. It's that we can see how these situations relate to our lives, even if they relate nothing to, even if they are completely unrelated to our lives, even if our lives are nothing like this. If you're a man in America, or I guess just in the global world now, how could you not relate to this film? We live in a world where families are becoming increasingly rare, and children, and I don't give advice or anything. I'm not one to do that, but I will say that you when you're younger, you are different than how you are when you get into middle age. I guess I'm probably middle aged now. I'm in my 40s, and about as middle aged as you can be, I suppose. And you think differently about life. There's a wisdom, obviously, that can come with age. And I think I saw this movie, in my early 30s, and it affected me in a different way than it does now, because there's a lot more pain that I see in the movie than I did then, and it's because of we live our lives in a sense, like in one sense, really thinking especially when you're young, you think you're never going to die. Even if you do, you think you won't. Do you know what I'm saying? And so we can have a kind of a reckless attitude towards life. And that's the way it goes. Dane DeHaan kind of goes through this rite of passage early. He doesn't remember the things that happened when he was young. He doesn't know anything about his dad. But then when he figures it out, he says that there's one part where he says that his grandmother told him that his dad was an outlaw. And it's seductive, and it's kind of cool, but it's not cool if you're in it and have to live it, I think. And the son becomes an outlaw, and at the end truly becomes an outlaw, but he leaves. What's great about this is that even though he runs away and he leaves, he goes because there's been so much of this in life that you kind of get the feeling that this kid is going to go off and make a better life for himself than has been made for him. So he's going to do it right, hopefully. And there's a lot of people who've gone through that. There's a lot of people who do that. People who go through a lot of shit try to make it better for the next people. Hopefully they succeed. You know what I mean? And I just think that the movie's about taking responsibility for your actions and choosing the right thing to do. Not only the virtuous thing, but the thing that is
virtue has effects and echoes in how it affects people around you and your family that are often neglected or thrown out, right? Like, I mean, if you are taking chances with your life, no matter what it is, if you're motorcycle riding and you're taking chances with your life, it's not to say that you shouldn't take chances and be we got to take chances in life in terms of like take risks in order to reap the rewards, and sometimes most of the time we fail, but in terms of doing outright dangerous things, we hopefully we have loved ones that care about us enough that there can be really bad consequences for that. And the actions that Gosling takes at the beginning, he has nobody that cares for him, right? And that's sort of why he lives this life. But the minute that he does, he uses those things. He gets even more reckless, right? Even though he's trying to do the right thing, he gets more reckless with his life, and that's sort of the crux of the whole movie. Bradley Cooper finds himself in that same position and tries to do something about it. He ends up kind of going wrong with it, but he tries to do something about it, and hopefully he can heal the thing with his son. I also find it interesting that the church is at the center of the movie. There's the baptismal scene so that his son is baptized, and we see the pain in Ryan Gosling's face. Obviously not a pain that his son's being baptized. He feels a sort of a pain in the sense that he's not up there with him, that he doesn't have that life, and what he's gone through, and a kind of a bittersweet pain because now he has a son and he wants to live for him. So I think that's beautiful in the movie. And hopefully we can all sort of, I don't know, we can live up to that. But I think that the idea, having children and if you're a fella having the doing right by your woman and sticking by her and having a family and creating a family is something that really hit home in this. And so if you're middle aged and you lack that, I think the movie is pretty poignant in that sense, if that makes sense to you guys. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know. Let me know in the comments afterwards. Let me know in the stream. And let me see if we got any support here. Of course, we got our friend Real John Connor, who supported us. Thank you so much, Real John Connor. Appreciate it. Thank you to Jason, of course. Always a big supporter. Let's look and see if we got any more super chats that I missed here. Let's see. Give me a second here. Yeah, so there we go. So this is one of those movies that I would recommend. Of course, I would really highly recommend this movie. It's great. It's rare and well done. And did you guys like my stream with Jethro the other night? You guys like that? It's doing pretty well. The stream on David Lynch and Twin Peaks Firewalk with me. If you haven't seen that, please check that out. Shouts out to again to Brody Alexander, Brody, young old boy who dropped $2 Canadian. Nearly got the face tats. Shout out to Roscoe P. Cotrain, and shouts out to K Dot out there, and really, really appreciate it. Thank you to all the support that I got during Firewalk with me. Please like and share the stream. I thought this would be a good one in terms of giving you something to watch if you haven't seen it, because there's just no movies. There's just no movies, y'all. I mean, there's like hardly anything being made, and the Oscars it is what it is, but I think that Barbie was the most successful movie of last year, monetarily, of course. Who knows? Either that or Christopher Nolan's movie are going to win the Best Picture, I guess. I don't think Gosling will win for that movie. Maybe he will. Who knows? But it doesn't. Whatever. This should have been his movie. But I think, like a lot of great movies, people don't recognize their greatness at the time. They don't recognize how impactful and powerful they are. Gosling plays a similar character to this in Drive, right? Because Carey Mulligan, who has a son in that movie, the son is the son of Oscar Isaac, and Oscar Isaac is the one who's away. And so Gosling comes in, and instead of a motorcycle, right, he's a driver. And of course, he's part of cops and robbers and bank robbing, and but he clearly has a protective, a manly protective instinct over his girl and his son in the movie, and then he actually helps Oscar Isaac in the movie, and that's part of it until what happens in Drive. So that's a great movie to do, but it's a kind of a pairing to this movie or a counterpoint in a way. And again, Mike Patton's score in the movie is fantastic because it's hypnotic, sort of piano driven, and what's the word for it? It's dark and innocent at the same time. It's really well done. Mike Patton from Faith No More. Disco Elysium. K-Dot says check out Disco Elysium. I haven't heard of that one. I know Elysium, which is a great movie. I talked about Elysium with Jay on Boiler Room last week. We were talking about that with Hesher and them. Also, you can catch me. I just got a thing from TNT, so I'll be going on one of the 40-minute segments with Hjorby Morik later this week. I'll put that up so you guys can check that out. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. Probably what we talked about on Boiler Room, and also Heart of Darkness and other stuff coming up. Blue Velvet analysis, possibly Pabst Blue Ribbon. I can't tell the difference between real life and the movies, man. Yeah, we might get to that one. I'm going to be doing a bunch of literary streams coming up, of course, with the Franz Kafka, Shakespeare, Walt Whitman, and I think next going to be the Kurt Vonnegut stream on Slaughterhouse 5, so we'll be doing that one. Do I do interviews? Do I like hold interviews? Am I the interviewer? I'm not a very good interviewer. I don't really do that. There was a comment on the CooperCon Jason Horsley stream that I saw earlier saying, well, why didn't you ask him for an interview? Well, because oftentimes asking the person who is the artist or wrote the book, not with that because it's an analytical book, I was just doing an analysis of the book and of Kubrick. So the interview didn't really play into it, but I mean, I don't know. Who do you want me to interview? Bret Easton Ellis? It'd be cool if we get Bret Easton Ellis since we've done so much. We're a small channel, but it would be cool if we could somehow do that in the future because of the shards and how much work I've covered of Bret Easton Ellis. That would be really cool. But I'm not really good at interviewers. I'm not a journalist. I'm not an interviewer. I'm just a dude who analyzes literature and movies. But if you'd like me to do that, if there's somebody you'd like me to interview, let me know. Otherwise, we've had our homeboys on here, and luckily our homeboys are some of the experts. I'll be, speaking of experts and homies, I'll be doing, of course, the stream with Jamie Hanshaw on the Lost Symbol coming up soon on her channel. Jamie's an expert. Everybody knows. Author, right? Author, presenter. So we'll be doing that with her soon. But yeah, if you know Bret Easton Ellis and you can get me a conversation with Bret Easton Ellis on his work, then yeah, let him know. That's all I'll say. But yeah, I mean, we've done Lunar Park, we've done American Psycho, we did some of the vignettes and short stories, we did Glamorama, and I'm about to do the Shards. And Bret Easton Ellis, Cormac McCarthy, and Don DeLillo are like the big examples of postmodernism that we've done. So, it would be interesting to talk to him. It would be really interesting to talk to him because, hopefully I would do a different kind of conversation with him. I'm not really interested in digging into people's personal lives, or I don't like asking questions, first of all, but I don't like to probe people's personal lives that much. I like to, when you're talking, is like when you're having a regular conversation with somebody, people can tell me what they want, but I don't like to pry. It's their business. I'm interested in a person's work. I'm interested in what they've done in terms of the creations that he's made, right? In terms of literature, because Lunar Park really is one of the best books. One of the best novels I've ever read. I go back to Lunar Park stream. Especially the last like 20 pages of Lunar Park are incredibly powerful. It's an incredibly powerful book, and also, Bret Easton Ellis lived in Richmond for a time, so that's interesting. So anyway, you guys, listen. Thank you so much for the support. Really appreciate you. And this was a short one, but thank you for being here for this. And I will be back later on with a longer stream on Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse-Five, other works of literature, more movies to come. If you want to see movies and books, please let me know. Please put them in the comments afterwards. Please like and share the stream. You guys get me up there, because I only need I'm like 35 subs away from 3,000. We need to have our 3,000 sub party. And we got to figure out something cool to do for that. But our 3,000 sub party, our 200,000 views. That's crazy, right? That's crazy for us. And plus it'll be 2 years. It's 2 years in like 3 weeks. Can you believe? I can't believe I've been doing this for 2 years. It's crazy. And it's all because of you. So thank you so much. Please help me to get to that 3,000. Please share the stream. Share it on wherever you're going to share it. Discord, Twitter, all those places. Really appreciate y'all. So to play us out here, this one goes out to Caroline. Beautiful Caroline out there. This one goes out to Caroline. Here is, hold on, let me find it. Let me go back. Here we go. Here's Sting. Here's Sting and a cut off his new album. This one goes out to Beautiful Caroline. And this is our friend Rooks out there, who is great. Please support Rooks G. Tell him who sent you. Okay, that's our friend. Also, last thing I do before I go, please follow our friend IPAC Arts, IPAK.arts on Instagram, who is leveling up in terms of his thumbnail business. He makes excellent thumbnails for Jay and me, Jay, Church of the Eternal Logos, our friend David Patrick Harry, and for Sam Tripoli, a bunch of people, and he's making that his full business, and he's leveling up there. So shouts out to him, because he's been a great help to us. It's great to have him as a friend. So please follow him on Instagram. And that is about it. Here is Rooks G with Brain 64. Please go to his Instagram, his SoundCloud. Please get his music on Apple Music. I guess he's I'm sure on Spotify, and of course on YouTube. That's our friend. So please support him. And thanks, y'all. Appreciate it. Let's go.
Corneria, fourth planet of the Lilat system. The evil Andros turned this once thriving system into a wasteland of near extinction. General Pepper of the Cornerian army was successful in exiling this maniacal scientist to the barren, deserted planet.
Message from General Pepper. Priority 1. We need your help, Starbuck. Andros has declared war. He's invaded the Lilat system and is trying to take over Corneria. Our army alone can't do the job. Hurry, Starbuck.
Contact me. Also, you can contact me on madmaximalism with 2 X's at gmail.com. That's a good way to contact me, or DM on Instagram.
Peppy Hare of the Star Fox team were sent to investigate. Upon their arrival, Pigma betrayed the team, and James and Peppy were captured by Andros. Peppy barely escaped venom and returned home to tell James' son, Fox, about his father's fate. A few years have passed. Andros has again invaded the Lilat system. General Pepper has turned to a new Star Fox team, headed by Fox McCloud, to save Cornelia and free the Lilat system once again.
I've been waiting for you, Star Fox. Now you will feel fruity. It's foolish to come against me. Only I have the brains to rule Lilac. You know that I control the galaxy. I'm looking forward to this.
Light form indicated at 12 o'clock.